Welcome back to That Impact Show. My name is Shar Moore. Our show is all about going from success to significance. Today I'm joined by Melissa Pateras. Former Chanel beauty executive Mel Pateras and Melbourne-based mother of one has developed her own luxury lipstick brand, Meleros Cosmetics, which helps women with cancer whilst also paying homage to her Greek heritage. The best-selling lipsticks have been a hit since launch, selling out 3 times, and one lipstick flying off the shelves every 10 minutes. So in 2020, as the pandemic hit, Meleros Cosmetics launched, and within 3 months, all the lipsticks had sold out, despite the constant lockdowns. In 2021, Mel then decided to move manufacturing into Greece and align the brand to Greek culture, paying homage to her own. Mel, welcome to our show today.
Thank you, Shar. Very excited to be on your show today.
Oh, I love all things beauty, but I love the mindset it would have taken to start this business during a very difficult time. You were in one of the most locked down cities in the world during the pandemic. So take us back to your journey working before in Chanel, but then how did you decide to start this business, Mel?
So, Shar, just prior to our podcast, I know we've had discussions about sort of past life experiences, and you referenced also the floodings in 2011, which really triggered something in my mind that I wanted to share with you. And that is, in 2011, I was on maternity leave from Chanel with my 6-month-old son. And I actually remember breastfeeding him and watching all the floodings happen in Queensland. And I thought, what a devastating time for the Northerners. But at the same time, being on mat leave, you start to really reevaluate where you are in your life. You've become a mum, you're on maternity leave from an amazing brand. But I almost had a light bulb moment around that time. And I thought, being at the age of 31 that I was then, I said, by the time I'm 40, I'm going to launch my own brand. I visually saw it. I'd manifested it. And I know people talk of manifestation and all this sort of stuff, and they think it's a little bit quirky, but it actually works. So I knew by the time the 40 would come along that I would launch my own brand. It would be around makeup, and I saw the brand's name. I knew that it would solely be lipsticks because color is so much fun. And that's how the story went until the global pandemic hits. So I don't know if you want me to continue on or if you have any questions around that part, but yeah, there is another chapter 2, 3, and 4 to unfold with that process also.
I'm sure there is. And, you know, every one of us has some form of journey. And I love that you touch on visualization and, yeah, quirky woo woo. I've heard it all. And look, I've been one of those people along the way that I just think, why not try everything? You never know what's going to work, and it doesn't hurt. And I visualized that, you know, this coffee table book we're working on at the moment, I've seen it. I've seen us all standing there in Times Square. I've seen the book on the billboards, and I know it's a reality in my head, right? So in a year from now, hopefully that's the case because we're still a year out. But yeah, please take us through the rest of the journey. And I guess the mindset that, you know, when you set a vision's one thing, but then you need to then go and make that vision a reality, right? So take us on the next part of that journey, Mel.
So around mid 2019, we decided to press the button on the manufacturing. And at that point, I decided to align the manufacturing to Canada. The Americas manufacture incredibly well, whether it's north, mid, south. Usually what comes out of the States is quite good, and it's also ethically done. So off we go. We press the button, and it can take up to 6 months before your order can arrive because of freight. And at that point, we didn't have COVID delays. So everything ran smoothly, and they gave me a timeline. They said around March, give or take of Christmas, we can produce and have this stock to you to launch your brand. So lo and behold, Shar, the stock literally arrives the day our Prime Minister announces that we're going into lockdown. I turned 40, Shar, that week.
Oh my gosh.
The stock was in delay off the shipping customs declaration, you know, all the things that it has to go through. So now I'm waiting on the ports yet for a couple of days. Courier brings it in. We go into lockdown that night. I thought when I was 31 watching the floods, did I fall? I said this was going to happen. So You talk about mindset, and I also launched a podcast channel called Make Up Your Mindset, which we're going to get you on.
Yeah.
And mindset is interesting because it plays on the psyche with how we actually deal with things in life, which is why I went into podcasting and, reaching out to other entrepreneurs. And it is a matter of, how do you treat a pandemic when you have a huge calculated risk that is now sitting tangibly in front of you? All your hopes and dreams, are they diminished? No. So instead of going into crisis mode, I thought, let's just go through a process of elimination. What could be the worst case scenario right now with the brand maybe not being launched? Because remember, we had done a lot of background work, Shar. The website was ready to go. Photography had been done. You have a private little sort of makeshift set up for online. Looks beautiful with all your branding, and you want it to go out to your clients. I had a wholesale model ready to go because I understood and learned a lot about that facet working for Chanel Australia. Very lucky, amazing journey to really embark on and teach you things. So learnings was huge. So I'm looking at everything in my office and I'm thinking, all right, let's just hold still and wait a few weeks, because how long could this pandemic last? We all had wishful thinking. We said, oh, surely by 2 weeks
It'll be over.
Well, not for Melbourne, because it just kept opening and closing. So I waited 5 weeks. Online was booming. Australia Post couldn't keep up. And I thought, well, let's just pitch it right before Mother's Day, like 10 days out. And I decided to do that. So whilst we did sort of a semi-soft launch in March, the brand really didn't go live until the 1st of May. And couriers were ready to rock and roll. So we just pressed the button midnight, the last day of April. Trade was happening on the 1st of May. We did a huge Mother's Day campaign. Like I said, there were third-party couriers available, so people were coming and going from the office. And I just remember seeing the Shopify just climbing and climbing. I thought, yes, this is we need the brand starting to grow. And then, after a few weeks and months of it just going in the direction you want to, problematic things start to happen. Then when you go into lockdown 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 2021, you just have to be resilient, be patient, and learn that, you try to have a process of elimination when it comes to crisis, but you just have to deal with it.
Yeah, you do. And it's I love that mindset that you're using, and not everyone has that, Mel. And I'd love to touch on that if we can, because when you're creating an impact in life, like every one of us every day, I guess as human beings innately, we do go out there and want to create an impact and make a difference, right? But when you're talking about impacting 1 million people, when you're talking about going from success to significance, there are things that happen to all of us, but not every one of us take it in our stride. So for friends watching today, what would you say to them if they're going through something right now? How do we become resilient? How do we pivot? How do we trust? How do we pick ourselves up and keep going forward? What's your take on that?
That's a good question, Shar, because sometimes to actually answer that immediately is really difficult. So you have to learn that a lot of things like environmental factors like COVID-19 are firstly out of your control. So if you're a personality that likes to control, you have to learn that you can't. So you do digress and you do pivot away. So what did I do to pivot? I did online Zoom collaborations with, when we talk of collaborations, with makeup academies. And we decided to run makeup tutorials and start to grow the outreach. Because Victoria was the hardest lockdown in the country, I decided not to focus on Victoria or Melbourne's per se, and focus on the East Coast. So Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide were open. Mask mandates weren't sort of in operation. So I got on the phone and did Zoom and tried to grow wholesale myself that way. We engaged some outsourcing marketing companies to help with all the fun and jazz. But you have to realize that you have to be creative and go, okay, I tangibly can't do a lot, but what can I do via Zoom? Well, I think Zoom grew that large that everyone now uses Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was until 2020.
I wish I bought shares in Zoom when the pandemic.
I know. I was thinking, what a great business. Whoever created Zoom, what a clever cookie. Yeah. And timing, like timing is sometimes not ideal for everyone, also in business, Shar. you talk about makeup being, well, I do anyway. It's a psychological factor for a consumer. It makes us feel great because we apply color. So all the corporates that were now once in a team environment were in Zoom. So I targeted corporate clients and said, get your mask off because you're in Zoom, which they could. Put your lipstick on. We even ran marathons in Melbourne. We joke about this. We had, from as socially distanced as we could, we'd run marathons and put our red lipstick on and just because you didn't have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Well,
it's funny. I used to wear lipstick under my mask. That's
same. I did the same. My knees took a beating in lieu of wanting to have my red lipstick on, and there I am paving the pavements of Melbourne, and it's so cold, so you're running as fast as you can because gyms weren't open. So Melbourne really united, and we tried everything possible, like even riding a bike with lipstick on. You name it, Shar, I did it because I thought I'm representing my brand.
Yes.
I want this baby to grow, and it is. Businesses are like a child.
Yeah.
You have to nurture them.
Absolutely. And there's so many great points, friends. I'm sure listening or watching this, you've taken a lot of notes there and a lot of mental notes around that mindset and resilience and getting on with the things you can control and also releasing the things you can't. Because I think, Mel, we give too much energy away to things that are literally outside of our control. We're about to go on a world tour for this coffee table book we're putting together. And, my husband and I have been married 30 years. We're leaving next week, end of next week. And there's so many things that aren't going to be in our control, and I'm not worried about them. And a friend said to me, I'd have to have everything planned out. We're going to be gone for years, potentially. I can't plan out the next few years. I'm going to plan out the first step and then make that happen. And then during that first step, I'll plan out the next country and who I'm going to film and where this book's going to be and so on. Like, that's what I can control, because anything further than that, if something did happen again, all of those plans would be out the window anyway, right? So, and it's too much energy and effort. But I also believe that sometimes we do need to live life like someone left the gate open. That's my husband and my motto, always has been. And it's that free, childlike, let's just do it. Sometimes we can get caught up in what can go wrong rather than think about what if it all goes right. Society always wants us to fear what can go wrong. What if this happens? What if that happens? I can't pre-think all the things that could happen on my trip, from planes, from luggage. I can't pre-think any of that. I wouldn't leave home, right? But to create the impact movement, to create the work that we're doing with this book and the TV show, I need to move. And so when you started to go on your journey, Mel, often there are people around us who we have our community of supporters and cheerleaders, but we can also have people who, out of love, often they want to protect us and they'll say, be careful of this, be careful of that, don't do this. Tell us about those, Mel, because I know friends listening are going through this at the moment and we hear a lot of feedback from our shows. So please talk us through how you deal with the people supporting you, how you deal with the people who don't.
It's another very good question, because what happens is it comes to surface very, very quickly, Shar. So I don't know, if I always use the analogy of when you get married, you have a baby, you divorce, you run a business, or you lose someone. Those 5 things in life really bring to the forefront who wants to be there for you and who doesn't. And I'm very black and white, even though I wear lots of color and I love bright things. Mel's mindset is very black and white. Instantaneously, you will have people there support you, because what happens is when you do go through life changes, it often brings up or presses buttons within other people internally. So they may or may not like or resonate with something you're doing. And that's okay too, because they're not supposed to be on your journey. That's how I think. And the ones that want to and help you resonate. So for example, what I found very quickly was, Shar, I aligned my mentorship to women who were 10 to 20 years senior than me. And then I went into mentoring those who were 10 to 20 years in my junior. And then those around me were in their own space, and that's okay too. So I realized very quickly I diverted to a more mature woman who understood business and could give me the guidance I needed. And they're probably my long-term friends. I have 5 of them around me, and they are brilliant. And then something fun happens at the same time. You have the millennials who come to you. So I spoke at Melbourne University last year because they wanted to know about businesses. And I had these 18-year-old or 18 to 20-year-old young students, 50 of them in the class, who have this community at Melbourne University who want to learn about business. So one of them found me because I updated my iPhone, whatever. She said, I study at this university. Would you like to come and speak about business entrepreneurship? I said, all right, sure. So what happened was I learned very quickly. I had hungry ears and minds wanting to listen to me. And that inspired me. That gave me a level of confidence. I thought, well, they trust me. They're interested in what I do. And all I do is I've got paint and powder. I just make people feel good. But they wanted to know about the business side of it. So what I'm alluding to is your support network naturally just filter traits into your life like that. And the ones, like I said, that aren't, that's okay. You just kindly and ethically just divert them into a different direction.
Yeah. Someone asked me recently off air, how do you sort of remove people out of your space that aren't meant to be there anymore? And there's no real right or wrong way. Of course, on social media, it's a little easier, but in your real life, it's just a matter of not being as available until they kind of realize that, that relationship isn't serving you anymore. And sometimes if they're really someone that's close or has been close and their voice is quite strong in your life, it's important to literally have the conversation with them. Because, I talk a lot about on this show, Mel, around our lens of life. I'm Indian. I was engaged at the age of 11. It's been a TEDx talk. And so a lot of my choices and voice were taken away from me. And I was told just to be invisible and stay in the background. I had no voice to share. Ironically, I'm in my early 50s now and I run a media agency. And all I do is bring my voice and other people's voices to the world through big coffee table books and TV shows and podcasts and magazines. And it's hilarious when you think about what I do now compared to what I was told. And I'm a big believer that the more voices we can share with the world, the more we can change the narrative, right? And it takes each one of us to share from our lens, because my prescription lens, the way I see the world, is because of every one of the things that have happened for me and to me. Your lens of the world is because of everything that's happened for you and to you, okay? And so what people need to understand is when someone says, Shar, I don't know if my story is good enough or my journey is good enough to be in that impact book. And I'm like, well, what you need to understand is your journey is your journey. And that's what we need to make this book diverse. And so your journey, Mel, with everything you've been on, you'll inspire other people. I love that with Meleros, you've created one product. And it's lipsticks. And sometimes on a business journey, and I see this a lot, I coached for 10 years, people would start it, they get a run, and then it's not really stable and set. Then they go and create a different line and they water down their product. Talk us about the dangers that you've found in doing this and why you've just stuck with one product.
I think one product, like you said, it's also quite a safe zone, because you need to really test and see first, that you understand your own product. Were your color choices correct? Did you overinflate your SKUs? Did you underinflate your SKUs? For me, again, I thought, well, color's fun. I use the keep it simple, stupid method, the whole KISS thing, which I'm a firm believer of. I've only got 3 lip liners that complement the range. I didn't overcomplicate that. But the question I have from a lot of people, Shar, is, when are you going to bring out the next range? And, what does the full liner count look like? Because when you're in cosmetics like I've been, people often talk of a full liner count. For those who don't know what that means, it means everything. Foundation, powders, lip liners, mascara, the whole kit and caboodle. So for me, that's not how the Meleros model looks. It's just lipsticks and lip liners. Did I overinflate the colors to begin with? Maybe, but it's working. It gives variety. To date, I don't know if there are any other manufacturers that are working with Australia like I am in my realm that are bringing products from Greece. So I feel like I've hit a little bit of a niche market there, and it feels right because it's really telling the story of my cultural history and who I am. So that feels good too. And like I said, it's a very simple model that does not need to be complicated. And do I want to go full line? Not anywhere in the near future. No. So what I do is I do little drop shipments of, say, some fun eyeshadows around Christmas, and there'll be minimal SKUs. So, X amount of thousands or hundreds, whatever I decide on. And we drop that in at Christmas and have fun. Or recently we just did a body shimmer oil, which is fun. And, you know, for as long as that's working, we might keep it, we might not. We'll just have some fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's the promotional side of what I do.
And I think that's a key there that you've said, Mel, a few times in what you just shared, is that have some fun with it. Sometimes when we get into business, we actually create ourselves a full-time job, and we've created so much time in product development and R&D and purchasing and stock.
Oh.
And, you know, I can imagine the outlay of time and energy and money, right? And then, as you say, then some of it could just fall on its face. Whereas when you're sticking with some key things and adding some other fun things along the way, it makes it exciting for your audience and your clients to be able to go, oh my God, there's a body shimmer. Oh, there's an eyeshadow. And they just, you know, eat it up. And so what is the overall goal, Mel? Like every brand has a mission behind it, I guess. And I sense that you really want to make people feel, you know, inspired and unique and individual and good, right? I believe that, wasn't it during the war that they said lipstick was one of the main sellers?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the real vision and mission behind Meleros?
Well, like you said, it is the lipstick effect to some degree. I can't take that because that's a historical event. However, for my whole life being in fashion and beauty and more in the luxury side, I've always wanted to make people feel good. So much so, Shar, that I don't know if you know this too, I do a lot of philanthropic work with the Cancer Council and about to venture into some other parts of philanthropy with women. So it's actually a personal thing that I'm delivering to people, is that not only through my product, but through my philanthropy work, I want to make people feel good. So I want to give back. And if it means that you purchased one of my blue base reds or something like you're wearing today, and that gives you that sense of confidence, I feel like I've done my part. And it's, again, it's the keep it simple, stupid method, you know, like it's not complicated. Or I don't know, if a friend purchased their girlfriend a birthday gift and it may not have been a pink she liked, but surprisingly it landed in her lap and it was one of mine. And she wore it out one night and I heard that it made her feel good and it complimented her. I'm like, yes, tick the box. Yeah. That's what I want to hear. Yeah. You know, that sort of mindset, because color is a psychological thing. Like food, shelter, sex, water is a survival instinct and companionship. I always say color or some sort of confidence boost also sits in there, so much so that I did a cheeky Maslow hierarchy of needs in one of my Instagram posts, and we photoshopped lipsticks up the top. We caused so much fun and hype out of it that everyone's like, oh, that's so true. I'm like, that's a bit of tongue in cheek.
It is so true. Absolutely.
I was like at the top of the hierarchy. I must send it to you. It was really funny. And it created such great, I guess, connections with people, you know, that they were responding. I was like, that's what I want to hear, you know, naturally, without sort of having to put an advertisement out or doing a marketing spend or something.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, connecting with people. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so true. And, you know, we do all want to feel like we're seen and heard and that we matter. And, you know, I've always been a big lipstick lover, big time. And it's something that, you know, when I get ready, I feel like it's putting on my last piece of armor. Like I'm so passionate about the work we do in bringing people's voices to the world, you know, and changing that narrative, because I think we can level the playing field when we share people's impact, and every type of person, from not known to well known. And so when I get ready every morning before I'm filming and doing calls all day, I put my lippy on and it's like, I'm ready, and I have a talk to myself, right? So talk to us about, Mel, the self-talk that you've used when, you know, you touched on some points where, you know, the pandemic hit, lockdowns, and then this happened and that happened. What's some of the self-talk that you use? Because all of us have an imposter syndrome. Did you ever sit there and go, who am I to start a brand? Like big lipstick and makeup companies around the world, who were you? Like, did that ever come up? And what did you say to yourself? What can you share with our friends today around that one?
Oh, look, Shar, it came up many times. So even though we sold out of stock, everything was always a risk, yeah? So when we're out walking in our socially distanced environment outside, I would sort of start delving into podcasts, which is why I started that. We'll get to that later. And I remember sort of pausing some of the podcasts because my mind was making so much noise, going, I'm such a small, I started speaking this language. I said, I'm such a small fish in this big ocean. And I had people at me saying, it is a saturated market, Mel. And, are you sure you're up for the challenge? So all this talk sort of started coming in. And I was walking outside and I just remember pausing, going, yeah, I am a small fish in a big ocean. So started to put some sort of negative connotation in my mind, thinking, well, what am I doing? Is this going to survive? Like, we've got this pandemic again, and we don't know when our premier is going to announce lockdown. And my industry need entertainment. They need to be out having dinners with their friends. All this self-doubt kicks in, and it's natural because businesses go in such what I call like the skies, turbulent motions. There's turbulence always in a business very quickly. Today could look very different to tomorrow, So I had to then somehow positively switch that and go, okay, reset, write down, get the vision board, all the kooky stuff that you do, and then start planning that, okay, if we are to get out of this pandemic, how's it going to look going forward? And that's when I started creating the new Greek collection and aligning that journey to there. And that instantly felt right. So it gave me a buzz. I'm a very highly energetic person naturally. So to sit still during COVID was really difficult. Even so much now I'm sort of buzzing around. So, it's hard for me to keep my feet on terra firma. So then I started creating my Greek collection and, speaking to them and, doing the late night calls. And it just gave me such confidence to take another risk. And that worked. But it's still an upward battle. The business is probably reset, Shar. I wouldn't consider the 2 years of 20 and 21 the most amazing years for business, but they were incredible because the brand grew in the direction it needed to. Yes. But it certainly reset itself last year. Yeah. So you start again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think businesses constantly go on a rebirth. And, I never thought I'd stop printing an actual printed magazine, yet we did.
I know.
Because it was so successful, and it was one of the only on the shelves that featured and profiled everyday people in business, not just always the celebrities. But it ran its cycle 9 years, and it was time to reset and do something new and fresh. And that's what we're doing now. But look, you've shared so many great points today on the show, Mel. If you had any sort of final words to our listeners and viewers today around really tapping into the impact that they're here to make, what would you say to them now?
Just don't be frightened to take a risk. And I know everyone needs mentors and probably the right people to align them to help inspire them. But trust your own gut feeling, because it will tell you exactly very quickly what to do. And we do challenge the status quo. It's a contradiction, Shar, because I have challenged my gut feeling many times. But if I go back to the initial feeling of every thought or decision I made, it was always right. So I try to hold that mantra very close to me now, saying, okay, well, it's all right. We'll just pause now and just learn to be patient, Mel, and wait rather than push, because the gut said it's not okay now. And that's without any external influence.
Yeah. That's so true. And sometimes we can give our external power away in a relationship, in a business, to other people. And sometimes their agenda isn't really what's great for us, because they have their own agenda. So I'm a big believer. I have always jumped and built the plane on the way down, even though I've had, coaches and advisors and whatever around me. It's something, when I hear an opportunity and I know, I get this visceral response. I get butterflies, I get tingles. I just know I'm meant to be part of something or do something or speak at an event. I just say yes, and then I figure out the rest later, and every time it's worked out. And the times I've said no, or someone in my trusted board has said no because they don't see the vision, I've lost out, and I learn later how I lost out on that opportunity. So I'm a big person of just jump and build the plane on the way down, but trust your inner voice. So many of us doubt our own intuition, and it's there to guide us. It's not there to hurt us. So I echo that, Mel. Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you, Shar. I always say this, and it's a bit cheeky, but I hear people go on dates and this is just such a side topic, but it's so true. And it is in business too. So they say, oh, I went on this date with this person. And I said, was it the 6-week rule? And they say, what do you mean? I said, by week 6, you just know if it's going to work or not. And that's when you start a new job. Usually when you kick off something, whether it's a relationship romantically or with a friend or a business venture, you usually know in the first 6 weeks during the norming forming stages whether it's going to work or not. So I always use the relationship status analogy, and it works.
I love that. I love that. Mel, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much. How can people reach out to you and find out more about your amazing lipsticks?
Thank you, Shar. So we have our website, www.meleros.com.au, or they can DM us at Meleros_cosmetics on Instagram.
Perfect. Mel, thank you so much for your time today, and keep looking amazing and really helping people feel good on the outside as well as the inside. Thank you.
Thank you, Shar. It's been an absolute pleasure.